and time.now. I'm going to Unix Nano. And it has, once I seed this random, right, it has a nice method called as ran.shuffle. Okay, that's basically going to shuffle my array so that I get a unique language code every time I rotate, right? So what should I give this? I should give the request.targetLangs as an argument for this. And then there's a lambda function that I need to implement. And you already guessed it, so this is what I'm going to do here. Of I, comma j is equal to j, comma I, okay? It's as simple as that. And then what I do, I get always of 0. So which is going to be mostly like a different one. Sometimes the same one could also come depending upon your shuffling logic, okay? Awesome, so we are done up to this. So what's next I need to do is, I got this error done. So what I also get as part of this is my translations, okay? I'm going to call it T. If I have some translations being written, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stream the translation back to my consumer. Okay, so what's the message that I'm going to use? It's going to be, so it's an array again. So I sent an array. The input strings is an array. So obviously get back as an array. But in this case, I'm very sure that I'm going to send only one. But don't do this. Do some other logic here. And then the language in which it got translated is what I'm going to send back. Okay. TL. All right. So just to make things look with a little bit thing when you read on the thing, so what I'm going to do a little bit sleep here for 3 seconds. So that what happens is that when you read on a CLI, there is a slack in between each of those commands, right? And that's all. So the implementation is done, okay? The streaming API implementation is done, so 22 to say 52, right? 30 lines of code, not even 30 lines of code. Your streaming API is ready, right? The implementation is ready. So what's next? So I need to write a test case for this, okay? So I'm going to say greeter underscore test dot go. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to knock off everything else. So, and your test code and your client code is pretty much same. So I'm going to call func test1 lang translation, okay? And what it basically does, since I'm going to do one language translation, I'm just going to run only once, okay? That's what it means, okay? So the very first thing that I need for this is a target host, which means to call. Somebody was saying, okay, target host is something I need, right? The request endpoint. So if I'm going to initialize that with localhost 9090, and again, I'm going to check if I have an environment variable which has that value, okay? So this is again going to check if os.lookup environment, target service, if it's there. Then what I'm going to do right now is, okay, if it is there, then set this target to that T, okay? That's what I'm doing. And then what I need to do right now, the next step is that I need to get the connection context, okay? So again, I'll do a context timeout. Okay, I'm just going to the same 10 seconds one, and gRPC has a method called as dial context. Okay. And then I'm going to pass my context. If I'm going to get a response from my API server within 10 seconds, I'm going to proceed further. Otherwise, I'm going to get an error, okay? And obviously, you have a target. And for this simple demo, what I'm right now doing is that I'm not using any TLS, right? There's no SSL here, right? Ideally, in a production scenario, you are supposed to do that, right? For simplicity's sake, I'm going to keep everything as simple. For that, what I need to do is, I'm going to say gRPC with transport credentials. Okay, and then I change this to this one, okay, insecure dot new credentials, okay, so which means that it's going to go as insecure, and this is going to return me two things, and that's the reason why it was complaining. And obviously if something happens, I'm going to assert this one, assert dot no error of t comma error, okay. I'm saying that I'm going to assert that there is no error, right, when I'm building my connection interface, all right? And the next job is that I need to get a client. For that, what I'm going to do is, like, if you go to the greeter package dot new greeter client, and I pass this connection interface, job done. So my client is also retried. I'm able to do this one. So what's next I need to do? So as I said, I'm going to do only for one count, right, one translation, because I already have. And then I'm going to say for if count is greater than 0, I'm going to break. See, because it's a streaming API, right? I have to break at one point. So I'm breaking at a point where it just says only one thing, okay? And then obviously I will also ensure that the count is incremented. Okay. Once I get a client, all I have to do is like I have to get a response, obviously an error, c.greet, you got this context here, pass the context, and then I'm going to pass the request. Okay. The request obviously going to take a message that's going to say hello world. And then the source lang, obviously we know that language, there's an internal package, don't use the internal package, there should be the other one, English.string. And target lang, so since it's one translation, it's enough if I just pass one thing to this array. When you implement the actual one and to deploy to Google Cloud, we'll use multiple array, right? So what I'm going to do right now, can you guess what language I might use? Thank you. So I think I'm still making sure your guys are awake, right? I'm not talking too much. Okay, so I'm going to make sure this doesn't return me an error again. So once my response is got, okay, this is an interesting question. So what should I do next? I got the response, okay? And this response is not the actual translation, okay? Because I just connected to the client, to the gRPC thing. This is a streaming one, which means that I've established the connection, right? I need to start receiving the response, okay? That's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to say got an error, response dot receive. That's it. This will start, it'll establish a connection, and the connection keeps running until I get an EOF back from this. Is it okay? So, and I'm going to do the same stuff here. So just make sure that there's not, I'm going to say there is no error. And I'm going to do two more things. I'm going to say, okay, I'll come back to this, got.message. And then this is going to be equal. And this is also going to be equal, okay? And this one is going to be, I think I already have this. Just copy paste just to just avoid some typing and typographical errors. And then lang, okay? And that is all. So we'll do the same thing pretty much for the client as well, okay? So this is what I've done. I called a target service, establishing the connection, and getting the response back, and making sure that my response is done. And once my response is done, I'm verifying its string, right? How do I verify the string? So what I'm going to do, go to Google Translate. I already have this ready. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, just ensure that I'm calling Google Translate, okay, just to make sure, all right? So, and I'm done with this. So what do I need to do next, okay? So we have defined this target service, right? We need to have somebody who needs to run this server, correct? So that my test case can go connect to it and establish the connection, all right? So that's what I'm going to do next. So let's go here. And then I'm going to create a package, CMD server. And then I'm going to call a main program here. Package main, so fmain, and then the very first thing that I require is that it listen on some port, right? So I'm going to take it through an environment variable again, listen on which port I want, and in case if the port is null, okay, then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set a default port, which is like 9090, okay? We said whatever you want. There's no hard and fast rules here. The next one, what we need to do. So it's the next question. So what should I need next? So there is still my Captain Candy is waiting to get into your hands if you love it. Otherwise, okay. So what's the next one we need to get? I have a port. I need to run a server. What is required for that? Sorry? No, not API call. Nothing to do with API. It's a very basic fundamental networking. Listener, exactly right. I think that gentleman got. Okay, so thanks first one. You're the first one to get my little candy if you wish. Okay, that's right. I'm going to do a listener here. Obviously, net.listen. Okay, I'm going to say TCP and then the port. Okay, sometimes what happens is, right, I think just to correlate with nothing to blame anybody. So once we start doing lots of code, right, we forget fundamentals. How many of you agree with that? Okay, you need to go back again and again and again and again. So this is my probably 23rd year in IT industry. Like that's what I'm doing right now. I start with Java and then do so. But I still love coding. Like I've not taken any managerial things because I'm not a good manager. That's another thing. So, but always I try to see like somebody who is learning or teaching, like I always love doing that stuff. That's the reason why all my sessions and talks are always live demos, right? I can interact with you people, take feedback from you. If I'm going wrong, you'll be helping me out. That's the reason why in this case, as I tweeted yesterday, it's not pair programming. I'm doing a group programming with you all, okay? Great, so we've done this. So we'll have the listener. So anything go wrong, obviously I'm just going to have this templating thing done. So I'm just going to say fatal. If not, what I'm going to do is like, I'm just going to say grpc dot new server. That's all I need to do. Create a new server. So once I create a new server, what I need to do, the greeter grpc, right? It exposes a method that's called as register greeter server, where I need to register this server with my thing. So all these are boilerplate code. You don't need to do anything. It's all generated. Just call the right methods, okay? There is two like, and then once I click the server, I also need to tell which implementation I want to use, okay? So if you remember, we had a type, right, in the impl called as lingua greeter. That's what I'm going to do. This is my implementation that I'm going to use. All right, in every language you does the same thing. So Go does this way, like in Java you do a different way, right? Obviously you have to register a server and its corresponding implementations. That's what this means, okay? And tools like curl, there is also called something called as grp curl. So it allows you to do curl with the grp servers, right? For that to get, if you want to use that tool, what you also do is like, we just use deflection dot register again, and then give this server yes, okay? So if everything, so this also uses, I'll show you how we actually use that in a second. So and then if everything goes well, just do a simple log for us to say, okay, server started at %s, listener dot address dot string, okay? All right. And then finally, I'm going to start serving this request. So on the listener interface, whichever we have created right now, and if I find any error, I'm going to log.fatal. Okay? All right? And that's all. Your implementation is done. This is what you require. I don't need Apache Tomcat. I don't need JBoss. I don't need anything. This is what I need to run a server. Okay, gRPC server. Okay, I'm not blaming the other languages, but the complexity that other languages have created for you to kind of write a simple thing like this. Okay, and if you start writing with Go, like you understand the simplicity, right? As I said, I've been a Java developer quite long, and then after I started to write in Go, I see the simplicity. So right now, I'm not averse with Java. Java is very good for web. Okay, but when you're writing APIs, then I feel that Go is a better companion, and people are starting to go with Rust right now. But Rust is kind of single-threaded; it's not multi-threaded. Okay, so it's that a little bit of complexity comes after that. Okay, so that's all I need to do. So what I'm going to do right now is going to hook things together, run my test case. Okay, that's where the tool like Drone helps you again, right? So I said like what I'm going to do. Drone has a concept called services, and then I'm going to run something called as gRPC. Greeter, and I have another image, basically Go run. So there's nothing but a Golang wrapped with few things to kind of run the Go program. That's all. So nothing else. You can simply run with Golang default image. And I have a bunch of environment variables. The first one I'm going to give is to the port. Though it runs on 1990, but I'm still trying to give 1990 as my port. Okay, just for clarity. And I'm going to run on a Go workspace. So what Drone also does is that when I run Drone, the current working directory where Drone exec is running, it gets mounted inside a volume called as /drone/src. Okay, that's what it does. So that's where I'm saying the workspace where to go find my files. And then I also have another one called as Go run file, which is going to be, can you guess, what is this? cmd server /main.go. Okay, that's what I need to run. So what basically service does is that since it's a pipeline, the service starts at the start of the pipeline, and the service runs till the pipeline, all the steps in the pipeline completed, which means that from any part of my pipeline step, I can go talk to this one. Okay, this is another Docker container, which means that I can talk to this over its name, correct? So I can just use gRPC greeter 1990 to talk to this. Okay, that's what we're going to do as part of our test case right now. I'm just going to say name, and then I'm going to say test. I'm going to use an official Golang image, so 1.19, that's what my current thing, and I need to say environment. So if you remember, what is the variable that we need to use? So now it's the second question. The variable that we need to use here. Anybody? Sorry? No? No? I need to have a target host. I'm giving you a clue. I need to talk to the target host. What did we define as part of this thing? If you go back to our test case, we said that we need target service, okay? And then what I'm going to do here is going to go to this name and connect to this. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. And after that, it's all going to be a command. Okay, and I'm going to do a couple of little things here. So, since the service container, right, there's again another container that's going to start here. Okay, there are chances that this container might be slow in starting compared to my test container, which means that my test is not started. Okay, so I have to make sure that my gRPC server is up before I fire my test cases, correct? So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a little tool I said earlier called as grp curl. All these links are there. Don't worry about that on my resources link. I'll share that at the end of the session. I'm going to install this tool on this. And then I'm going to say while not grp curl, curl, and then I'm going to say plain text. If you remember, by default gRPC services are TLS enabled, okay? So you have to make sure that you're giving plain text, otherwise your TLS handshakes will fail, okay? I'm doing this one, and then I'm going to connect to which one? I'm going to connect to this target service, right? And then if the service is, and then I say list. This is one of the methods which lists all the methods within this particular endpoint, okay? Just like a REST APIs, right? When you give Swagger and then connect to a REST API, the REST API is going to list you all the methods that's going to be there, okay? And what I'm going to do right now, once it is there, I'm going to do sleep for 3 seconds, wait until it's up, and say done. Okay, it's a simple bash scripting, nothing more here. And once that is done, I'm going to call the test case, and then I'm going to say run this test case within the timeout of 30 seconds, and then that's all. So this is the test case command that we run here on a Go program. So I go test-verbose, it lists your test methods as well, and then timeout saying that it has to be in 30 seconds, otherwise my test will be considered as fail. Okay? And that's all I need to do. The other advantage, let's start this and I'll explain this more. I'm going to say go mod tidy once more. All right? So let me go here. I think it's included the wrong thing here. So I need to clear this off. Otherwise, things are going to be complaining, okay? So this requires another one. What we need right now is a set of API key, right? So I've defined and pulling the API key from my environment variable. I don't have it defined as. I'm going to copy it from my thing already have. So since an API key, I cannot show this public. If you're just you people, then I can show, but it's getting live streamed, so I don't want to show my API key, okay? Again, even I can reset it later, that should not be a problem. But that's the API key that's there, and Google application, how many of you know about this variable? What is Google application credentials? With Google Cloud, whenever I write, I need a service account to access any of the Google Cloud services, correct? To do service account, there are multiple ways. I can use OAuth, I can use service account, I can use API key, there is other ways, right? The very common one we use is a service account key, which is a JSON file, which we generate whenever we create a service account in the console, okay? And then it downloads you the key that you need to put it here, right? By default, Google Cloud, gcloud CLI, or anything that uses Google Cloud will go search for this variable name in your environment. It's pointing to a service account JSON. If it's there, it uses that for you to authenticate against Google for your services. Okay, that's what is Google application credentials does. So let's run this one. So I say don't exec. I have to load this environment variable. I can load like this. The .env file has API key in it. So that's what I'm going to pass it along with that, and that's what's going to be getting used in that, right? Let's start this and then see what happens. Hopefully, if all goes well, my thing should go running. Okay, it goes download stuff. So you'll be wondering, okay, why can't I go run the server on my command line itself? Okay, one of the common problems that you have with that is that you pollute your local environment. Point number one, your dependencies might not work. Okay, we go back to the same old problem, works only in my mission scenario, right? When I use tool like drone, what basically happens right now is every time I run this whole pipeline, it's going to be new container, correct? So it kind of goes and starts this stuff and kind of runs it again and again and tests the stuff, all this whole stuff in a new, completely clean new environment. Okay, that's the advantage that we are getting. Since we are using containers, I'm not polluting my local machine as well. Okay, these are the advantages that I have. I think there is some issue with my thing. Let me check what's the mistake I've done on my test case. So let's go back here to my drone YAML and see the services gRPC greeter. That's what I'm going to call here. Okay, and this is going to be the target service that I'm listening on. Okay, and this is going to be on plain text, and I don't know why this is not able to connect to this. Let's check this. Okay, so we're doing live code, so obviously these problems are there. So let's go and check it out once more. Run this again. Let's see if it all goes through. Aha. So anybody was able to get something wrong with my code? Sorry? Syntax error. I'm just wondering if there is anything wrong with this. It's not able to look up this particular host here. Okay. Let's go and check what this is here, what I'm giving here. So on the test case, I'm looking up this stuff and then say target service. Okay, and the target service is going to hit here, right? Sorry? Is this one? Oh, okay. Yeah. Error not equal to null. Was all good. Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, too much of typing and too much of scrolling. Okay, I think thank you so much for the help. I think I don't have so many good toys to give you. Otherwise, I would have loved. So actually, I expect a lot. I think I just sent a request to my office in the US to get these things a lot, like around 100. Sadly, like I did not get the courier on time before I came here. So otherwise, probably I'll try to send it through these people when I meet them next time, right? So. Right? So do you understand why we write these things with pipelines and why pipelines makes things very important for you? Because you have this habit of people like write pipelines at the end after they do the development, right? But what we are trying to do right now is starting to write this thing right from the day one when you start to write the application, right? In that way, what I'm also doing is I'm also implicitly testing my code, whether it works inside my target environment, okay? Everything we are going to deploy is going to be on cloud, which is going to be on Linux. If it works on Linux, then it's going to work everywhere, right? And we are using this process of clean testing every time, which means that every time I run my code, it's cleanly tested. Okay, there we go. Our test case has passed, and we are done with the first step of writing my pipeline. Okay, the other one also, what drone also helps you is that whenever you run pipelines, right? When you write pipelines or Jenkins or GitHub Actions or GitLab Actions or all these things, so I don't have a way by which I can test my pipeline itself, whether I'm writing my steps correctly or something going wrong, what I need to fix, what variables I need. So all these things need to be tested, right? How do you do the test? We commit the code into the respective cloud, run it again. Fails, commit the code again, run it again, which is unnecessary thing, right? So I need to have some way by which I need to start running the pipelines on my local laptop first, make sure everything works good, and then take it to the enterprise thing, kind of like cloud, and then share it with your team. In that way, what I can, your pipelines also become robust, right? That's what drone does. With drone exec, which is a CLI basically, which runs on your local laptops, I'm able to test my pipelines right now. And now, since everybody, each of us will be developing enterprise applications for some of our customers, right? In that case, I have to share it within a team, right? I need to have a platform that does this work, and that's exactly what Harness does for you. Harness platform is basically, if you look this thing, if you'll see this little drone icon here, so Harness takes the open source drone and kind of quality test it, add few more features on top of that, and make it available for enterprise for a cost. Typical open source model of open source and subscription, right? And apart from that, Harness, it's a holistic platform which gives you more other stuff like deployments, builds, feature flags, and cloud cost, right? We get one platform, choose whichever modules you want, enable it, and pay for it, okay? In this thing, we are going to see how to do the builds, right? So we have talked about all these builds, right? We're going to write exactly the same drone pipeline, replicate it here. The good thing is that these drone was acquired by Harness, and what we have done right now is that we are integrating a way by which the same drone YAML will also run in your Harness platform without any change. Okay, that's going to be probably, if all goes well, it will be released in the first quarter, which is like March to April kind of thing. And then if that's going to happen, then you don't need to change anything. But for today's demo, I have to rewrite this YAML. Okay, that's what I'm going to do, but visually. Okay, let's go here and then get started. Before I start, I want to show a few things, right? So I'm used a lot of secrets, credentials, and other stuff inside, okay? So Harness has a concept called as resources. In resources, there are lots of resources like your connectors, delegates, secrets, file store, etc., right? For today, we'll just think about only secrets and connectors. What are secrets? For example, as I said, I'm going to take the same application, deploy it onto Google Cloud Run. Okay, which means that I need to know Google Cloud Project, where I need to deploy. That's one secret. Or I can even just be plain text as well. And service account file. Okay, this is very much required for me to go do anything with Google Cloud. Okay, the service account file is what will be used, whether you have permissions to deploy Cloud Run. So that is what service account JSON. And then a Docker Hub password to connect to my Docker Hub container registry to push and pull the images. And finally, a GitHub access token, which basically allows me to connect to my GitHub repository, right? So for example, when you write this pipeline here, so we'll see this pipeline basically writes a webhook inside your GitHub repository. So which means that to trigger the pipelines, okay? So for that, I need to have an access token, right? So these are account level resources. So what basically means that I can split my secrets at account level, organization level, and project level. It means that you have a fine-grained access control for your secrets. Not many of the CI platforms gives you this. Okay, so most of the, even GitHub, I just go to GitHub account and put a secret, right? But I don't have it on that account level, one scope level, right? For example, when I put like that in a GitHub action, so which is used by many developers, the developers are getting exposed to those secrets. Which though actually they don't need to, correct? So if you want to control that behavior, they need to edit, they can see what the secrets are, so which is not required at all. So somebody at the ops level can start controlling it, okay? That's one of the advantages that we get with platform like Harness, right? Where we can have a fine-grained control of this, okay? The another one which you also get is delegates, which means that if you have a confidential code, which you don't want to put it inside your public repository. You have a repository within your data center, right? Like hybrid cloud scenario, if you imagine. In those cases, the delegates can run within your data center, which means that the API is what gets connected to Harness subscription, and the entire build workflow, the pipelines will run within your data center, which means that they can access your environments within your intranet, right? You don't need to go outside. Okay, so these are a few advantages. I'll talk about more in a second. So what we're going to basically do is that I'm going to go to a project here. So let's go here. There's a bunch of projects I have. I'm going to go to this DevFest demos. And as you have guessed already, I already have this demo API key already keyed in. Okay, so the secret added to this. Okay, so before I do this, so what I also need to do is push this project into GitHub, correct? So I need to git init. I say git add and git commit. Okay. And once I do this, I'm going to push this one into GitHub. I call this project as DevFest AHM 2022 demo. Okay, push it into my public repository here. All right, so I'm done with this, and then open this up in the GitHub thing here. We have this project here. So we'll look for the hooks a bit later. So what I'm going to do right now is go to get the overview and get continuous integration, get started with this, okay? So it takes a few seconds for it to go pull out all the things, right? We're given the token, so obviously it can go quick. Oh. I'm having issues with this since this afternoon, right? Okay, it's back. I think you're lost, okay? It's just this, what I call the color window or blue screen or the color circle, what we call in Mac, okay? So this is the project which you pushed in. So I've done this and then click next. You have a bunch of starter pipelines which you can use, or you can even write your own template, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use starter template and then start afresh, okay, from scratch. You're just going to put one single hello world here, so we're not bothered about this. So what I'm going to do, the very first step is going to go to the add step here. So what, in fact, like I'm a YAML lover, but people also love GUI, right? I'll also show you a YAML view of it at the end. So what I'm going to do is just pick this run, okay? What I'm going to run, or in this case, I have to do a background process. You would have guessed what the background is going to be, okay? I'm going to say gRPC greeter, okay? And then what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to select the container registry that I need to connect to. If you remember that I have the Docker Hub thing which I've added as part of my connectors. I'm going to pick that up, and then the image, if you see here, I'm just going to go back to my terminal, my thing here, copy, paste it, okay? All right, just to avoid, sometimes I even misspell my own name, okay? so I'm going to say port, that's going to be 1990, that's what I'm going to listen to, go workspace. So in harness platform, is basically, it's not drone SRC, it's /harness is the volume where your cloned source is mounted, okay? So that's where I'm going to use. That's one little change that I need to do. And again, go run file. This is what I'm going to give. And the same one. It's not going to change anything. Okay. Obviously, I'm going to give a port binding 1990 to 1990. And in this case, when I call the service, the target service is going to use the ID, not the name. Okay. That's what I need to use here. Okay. I'll come back to that in a second when we do that. And then image pull policy, if not present, apply changes. Okay. So this is the very first thing that we did. So what I'm also going to do is that I'm going to change this one to this, just reordering the stuff, okay? And then I'm going to rename this as test, and test my app, or I can even leave it blank, okay? And then go to my application here, copy this, sorry, not this one. I'm not changing anything here from the logic of the pipeline, but only thing that the YAML that I'm crafting are different, okay? So it has more sophistication here since it's an enterprise product. It has a lot of sophistication inside this. And please do wait, I'll share you a free tier access to everybody at the end of the session where you can go try out all these things within Harness platform for free. Okay, that's going to be a free tier where you can create unlimited projects, unlimited secrets, but we have a restriction on build numbers that you can do per day and deployments that you can do. Okay, that's because it's a free tier, we have a restriction on, but you can still try all the stuff which I'm showing right now. Okay, so I'm kind of doing this stuff, and then once you get back here, you know what I'm going to do next. Pick up the thing which is going to be used here from my Docker Hub. So go pull Golang 1.19. Some cases what you can also do, you can use in the internal registry if you want, and then pull it from here. Thank you. I think you're awake. So sometimes I feel like I have a dyslexia, right? So typing always. How many of you have this thing? Like if you do coding, like a lot of people, like we swap the words across, right? It's quite natural. Thank you for this, okay? And what we need to do right now is go and define this as an environment variable here, and then say gRPC greeter and 1990, okay? All good? And if not present again, and then save, okay? So this is, we are doing it more visually here. We also have an YAML, I'll share the YAML in a second. So next step is what is going to get interesting, right? So how do you build your container image? What is the basic, again, this is another question to watch. What is the basic thing that I need to build a container image? Docker file? Okay, I think that gentleman got one. But if you imagine in our code, I don't have Docker file, but I'm going to build a container image out of it, okay? So this is where things get interesting. So this is where I'm going to use an open source project again called as Co. Co is again born out of Google, okay, as part of the Knative stuff, okay? This is open source right now. So as the name suggests here, it is a fast way to build fast container images for Golang applications, okay? Let's see how do we do that, okay? So what I'm going to do, again, go to add step, and then from the step library, there are a lot of steps you can go explore when you get an access to the account, okay? And then going to go run, and then I'm going to call co build and push. That's what I'm going to call this one as. It's going to be a bash, okay? So as I said earlier, I'm going to push this into Google Artifact Registry, okay, or GCR, okay? GCR is deprecated. That's going to be deprecated completely soon. So what they use right now is called as a Google Artifact Registry. That's what you see here. This is my personal Google Artifact Registry that I use here. I'm going to push the image right here. To push an image to this, what I require is, very first thing, I need, what I need? To push anything to interact with Google Cloud, what is the very fundamental thing that I require? service account. Okay, a service account key, that's what I'm going to do right now. And let's say I'm going to store this in a directory called a /root/.gcloud, correct? You can have any name you want, but, and then making sure that this directory is not readable by anybody, okay? Or R group and others equal to -RWX, okay? Obviously by default it will be, but still I'm making sure that it's not writable by anybody else. And then I'm going to do an echo of key content, okay? And then I'm going to push this into a, again, Google application ILs, okay? Is my spelling right? Key content, okay? All right, so what I'm trying to do, I'm dumping this value in this variable into Google application credentials thing. We'll configure this variable in a second. Once that is done, what I'm going to use is credential GCR configure Docker registries equal to Asia1, Asia.South1 -docker-pkg. I can give any number of all the list of GCR directories here, but I'm just using Asia1, which I'm going to push right now. So what this basically does, this credential helper, CREDENTIAL, is the credential helper. Basically, if you go to this documentation of Google Cloud Doc, so this says you what it needs to do. Okay, there are multiple ways to authenticate against your container registry and then kind of push and pull images. Okay, we need authentication Google Cloud. Nothing is public by default. Okay, so what you're going to do right now is I'm just using this one right here. Where is that? Okay, standalone credential helper. I've already installed it as part of my image. I'm just calling this one. I'm making sure that I don't misspell it again. So this is what I'm going to do, configure Docker, and then I'm giving registries, right? And then I'm going to run this command, co-build cmd server, okay? Because I'm going to build the server image, right? That's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to build the server image right here, and then co-build, and then I'm going to flush this into image ref, okay? Kind of store this value here, and kind of take this one here. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm done with this one, and then I'm going to go to my configuration again, and then use the Docker Hub. And I have, again, a utility image that have all tools within, kube dev tools, :0. I use it in every demo of mine, so that's the reason why I have this. So as you guessed it, again, I need the image ref here. So this image ref is going to be exported by this step so that I can use it as part of any other step, right? Next step, we are going to do a gcloud deploy, right? Basically deploy to Google Cloud run. So that's what I'm going to do next. And then if you guessed it already, I already have this image thing, right? I think I'm running out of time. So what I'll do, I will shift to the YAML way, okay? And then start doing it from here, okay? I'll be bit faster here. So what I'm going to do, as I said earlier, so I need some environment variables here. So I'm going to use key content here. That's what I'm going to do. And it uses something like this, secrets, secrets dot get value of, if you guess it already, I showed you some account thing, right? We saw a bunch of secrets that we already had it. So this uses what is called as JEXL, Java expression language, to kind of pull out those secrets, right? This is what I write here is Java expression language. That's what is getting used. And I have key content. And next one is I'm going to write the file where I need to write Google application credentials. So as I said earlier, I'm going to put that in this path, sa.json. And co-docker repo is another one that I need to have. So where I'm going to push this image into, so that is what, this one, right? I already have a repository here. I'm just going to copy paste this one here, okay? That's all is required to kind of build your application and push it into Google Container Registry, all right? So I might take a 5 minutes more. I hope it's okay. Okay? Okay. And then the last step is just one step more that I need to do. So let's go back to this and then add another step. So which is basically is going to use a plugin from step library. So I call this as deploy to Cloud Run. Okay, I select again, go to the container registry here. And this plugin is publicly available. So this is a drone plugin that I developed and contributed back to drone. So this is basically deploys this application into Cloud Run. Okay, it has a bunch of properties that all we need to configure in a second. So let's go back here and do it here, Cloud Run, and I'm going to use latest. So plugins are pretty much the your container image, but you baked in a logic of what to do, right? In this case, I baked in a logic of how to deploy a Cloud Run application. It runs a G-Cloud, calls a G-Cloud API behind the scenes and writes stuff, okay? So let me again shift to YAML, just at the interest of time, because the clicks are always boring, right, for a developer. So I'm going to do settings. As I said earlier, this also gives you IntelliSense here. Settings. That's what I need to write here. And then I say service account. I can copy paste it, so let's not do any other mistake here, okay? I'm just going to copy this one here. And if you already guessed it, I'm going to use the same service account JSON that's here, okay? And then the project, I'm going to deploy. I already have the project name here. I'm going to deploy this to this project. And then the region that I'm going to use to deploy is Asia South 1. And then the other one which I want to do is the name of the service, which is called a service underscore name. So that's going to be called as lingua greeter. Okay. And then the last one that I need to spend is image, right? So which image we need to use? This one, right? To refer to this image, what we basically do, I say steps dot step identifier, which is co-build and push here, dot output, and then output variables, dot image ref, okay? That's how I refer to this thing. That's the reason why I exported that, so I have the complete image reference, right? How many of you know about image digest? SHA-256 digest, okay? So this is going to use a digest, it's not going to use a tag, okay? So always use digest because it's very secure when you use things. And this is pretty much what we need to do. My whole pipeline is ready right now. Let's revisit once. I have a gRPC greeter one, and then I have these paths here which is given. I hope I don't have any spelling mistakes anywhere. So, and then the Cube Dev tools here, I'm just going to push this co-build and this image. I have the application credentials. I use code Docker repo, which is used to push the image to. And then the key content, again, I'm getting from my account level thing, the service account JSON that I already configured. And finally, I'm pushing this into Google Cloud Run. I'm giving service account JSON, project, region, service name, and image, okay? And that's pretty much it. I'm going to, since I said to you something, right? So why we gave this access, the moment I configure this repository, if you go to webhooks, so the webhook is already added here automatically for you. Okay, this is what we call as a Git experience in the Harnett platform. I can even save the same pipeline back into my GitHub repository. That's also possible. Okay, I've not shown that for this particular demo. So how do I trigger a build? I say clear git commit. I'm going to do a git commit here. I just said this, and then I'm just going to push it back to origin, and I go back to my pipelines, and then go to the execution history. I should see the pipeline getting triggered for me, all right? So let's wait for a few seconds for this to complete. Approximately it takes 3 minutes for the thing to complete, if I don't have any typo or anything on my commands, okay? So, and until then, what you also do is that, let's go, I have all the resources put down in this resource link, and this is one message I want to leave to you, okay? In cloud native world, CI and CD means CI is container image, CD is cloud deployment. Just giving a little bit different meaning to it, okay? So because all I have to do in the cloud world is that I build a container image, push it into a registry, some service, take it from the registry and deploy it. Then why should I do CI/CD together? Why do I use CI tool to kind of build CD, right? Should not be done because we write multi-cloud, we have hybrid cloud architectures, we deploy to multiple things, right? When you do with CI, then it becomes super hard for you to maintain your CI scripts, okay? So as I told earlier, You can scan this QR code. I'll put it a little bit bigger. So this is going to give you an access to a free tire harness platform. Okay, so we can have a limited builds, limited deployments, but you can play with the entire platform, cloud costs, feature flags, whatever you want to do. Okay, so just to sign up, and I'll also leave you a few other resources in a second once you have all signed up. And I hope I'm on time, or I'm just 3 minutes. 2 minutes extra, 3 minutes extra. Okay, just give me 2 more minutes, I'm done. Okay, let's see if that is successfully deployed. Okay, it's all done. Okay, you're taking a snap of it. Anyways, I'll be sharing the slides. You get this thing, QR code on the slides as well. Okay, let's see if everything went well for us. It's still running? Oh, okay. gRPC greeter is not able to connect. Probably it's still waiting for this. Server is started. What's the problem I have with my pipeline? Okay, let's abort this. Okay, so this is everyday developer's problem, right? So I just say cmd harness run. I just gave the port. Sorry? Okay, you know what? Get value. I missed to add the API key because I have it on the secret, but I've not given it to the test case, right? So that it will not be able to connect to the APIs. Okay, that's all I need to do. Let me kick it off again. I can do it manually also from here. That's what I'm going to do right now, and leave it back. Okay. I hope things runs this way, and as I told earlier, so I have resources here, so which gives you all the resources that I talked about. I put them here, all right? And one of the important stuff which you want to do is about gRPC, Google Cloud, the links which I gave here, everything out here. And I also have a sign up link here where you can go sign up for the Harness free type platform apart from this stuff. So if you have questions, get to developer.harness.io. I have a Slack channel here where you can join the Slack channel and ask us questions in case if you want to apply this for your scenarios. Okay, so I hope things should be good this time and things get deployed. Let's see what happens. It takes a bit of time as well. All right, and last but not the least, while that happens, let's not keep quiet. Okay, let's do this. Okay. So if you like this, so just tweet this thing. If you love this session, please do share us a tweet on all the stuff. And I also placed the presentation link there where you can grab the copy of the slides where I have put all the resources and every other stuff. Okay, so if you liked my session, in fact, I hope so. Okay, and you can just leave that as well. Okay, right? So with that, I wish you all a very, very happy holidays and happy Christmas and happy New Year. Okay, and hope to see you all again. I hope before I leave, the pipeline succeeds. Right? That's the best thing I can see before I leave you guys. And over to Hiren and others. Yeah.
Thank you, Kamesh, for that wonderful session. Slideless one. I think everyone enjoyed it. So here is a small memento from GDG Ahmedabad for your wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.